again, it's me, Lou. In Season 1, I told you guys about how I moved into a luxury mansion called Plutus Heights. I lived there with 6 other rich kids, Jeremy, Mark, Will, David, Aaliyah, Naomi, and got involved in all kinds of drama. First, there was David using me as his fake girlfriend. But later, he actually asked me to go out with him for real. Then there were rumors that Jeremy was having an affair with me, and so his girlfriend Naomi made my life hell. But luckily, a handsome mystery man came to the rescue, who turned out to be Mark. Now Mark and I are dating, and I've never been happier. Well, so are you ready for Season 2? Honestly, things between Mark and I have been great, and so have things at Plutus Heights. It's as if all the drama fizzled out, and the 7 of us were getting along so well. We even decided to take a big group trip together to celebrate the end of the semester. And because we were all nearing the end of our time at college, which meant we wouldn't be living together much longer, we were having a Mediterranean cruise trip, traveling through Spain, Portugal, France. But when we were on the way to our next destination, Venice, Italy, the pandemic suddenly broke out of nowhere. So obviously, we had to change the itineraries and shorten our trip, which was a bummer, but luckily, we were solely traveling on our private cruise and staying in private resorts. So we weren't in danger. That's the most important thing. Though, along with the chaos going on out there with planet Earth, stuff on the cruise wasn't exactly peaceful either. A new chapter of drama has begun. One night, we were out drinking on the deck, enjoying some fancy French wine that we'd picked up along the way. It was the perfect night. The weather was warm and balmy, the stars were out, and there was this cool sea breeze all around us. I'd never experienced anything like it before. Even though my parents are rich, they didn't really flash their cash around, so I'd never really learned how to fully make the most of life like my friends had. And I thought, it's not too bad leading a modest life. Everyone even joked with me, saying that I was too uptight, and that my family was rich, but it was such a shame that I didn't know how to spend money. They were probably right. I really should let loose a bit and enjoy life a little more, as trips like this have been really fun. That night, we were drinking and chatting when suddenly, Jeremy got up and said he had to have an emergency call with his tour manager after COVID had caused his tour to get canceled. That was so unfortunate. Everyone kinda quieted down after he left. Then Mark leaned over to me and said,
"Let's go back to our room too, babe."
And that's when Aaliyah looked over at us and whined, "Ew, get a room! I can't stand watching you 2 lovebirds." Then she got up and left. It was kinda awkward, but David quickly interrupted and said,
"What is wrong with you guys? You're such party poopers. Stop killing my vibe. Listen up. No one is leaving until we finish this bottle."
And at that, he popped open another bottle of champers, and we all cheered. We ended up staying up super late, reminiscing about the trip so far, and looking at all our photos. It was so much fun, and we all had a good laugh. At one point, Naomi popped up from her seat. "Oh, Lou, remember that pic I took of you at Parkwell? That one was so funny. It's on Jeremy's camera, though. Let me go get it." "Oh, and where's Aaliyah?" "Let me go get her, too." Then she ran off in excitement. We were all tipsy by this point, and in a good mood. We started talking about where we'd go next on our trip, and I suggested we should make this an annual thing because it had been so much fun. But just as I said that, I heard someone yelling. It was Naomi, and she didn't sound excited anymore. She was super angry. "I can't believe it! In our bedroom? Jeremy, are you for real? You're cheating on me in our own room? What is wrong with you?" Oh my God, Jeremy was a serial cheater. Poor Naomi. And then I started to panic. Who had he been cheating with? Please tell me it wasn't Aaliyah. We all ran to the room, and I prayed so hard that it wouldn't be her, because then our friendships would all be over. The whole way to the room, we could hear Jeremy and Naomi shouting at each other. "I am speechless, Jer. What do you have to say for yourself, Naomi screamed. Then Jeremy said,
I thought it was you, babe. I'm a bit drunk. And she came into the room and it was dark and..."
Then Naomi interrupted, saying, "What? You thought it was me? You're drunk, but you're not blind. Look, we look nothing alike. You've sunk too low this time, Jer. We caught up with them, and when we looked into their room, Jeremy was on the floor begging Naomi for forgiveness, and there was another girl on the bed. The maid! Oh my God, he cheated on Naomi with the maid! But at least, thank goodness, it wasn't Aaliyah. It could have been so much worse. Eventually, Aaliyah showed up to help me calm Naomi down, and that night, the three of us slept in Aaliyah's room. We couldn't leave Naomi alone because she was so upset. I couldn't believe how everything had just changed in the blink of an eye. One moment we were having the best vacation of our lives, and the next, it was all a mess. Naomi only fell asleep around 3 a.m., and I only know that was the time because my dad suddenly called me. I would have thought it was strange, but it was still evening back in New York. Maybe he was missing me. I was actually relieved to speak to him, and I excitedly said, "Hi, Dad. What's up?" But as soon as I heard his voice, I knew something was wrong. He didn't sound happy at all.
Pumpkin, there's this thing, you see. Our company, well, it's having some trouble. This pandemic is so harsh. Could you come home soon? I really need your help.
After that call, I couldn't sleep a wink. I was so worried about my family. The next morning, I told everyone what had happened, and they were so understanding. Will even offered to lend me his private jet so I could get home ASAP. Mark decided to come with me, so we packed up and got ready to leave. I felt so bad leaving Naomi after what had happened, but now I had my own heartbreaking news to deal with too. When we got home, my mom and dad sat us down, and it took a few minutes to tell me what was going on. The truth was, my dad had just filed for bankruptcy. It felt like my whole world had just come crumbling down around me as I heard my dad tell me. My whole body was shaking, and all I could say was, "No! What?" Then my dad explained.
I'm afraid we just couldn't survive this pandemic. Our branches in Asia have been frozen for months, and now in Europe too. The domestic ones don't seem to be able to hold up for long either. It's been so hard, and there's nothing we can do now. But don't worry, Pumpkin. Just finish your studies. That's the important thing. We can still afford your last semester. Go get that degree, then come help me revive our company, okay?
By the time he'd finished speaking, he was choked up, and we both started crying as he reached out to give me a big hug. I had to be strong and push through my last semester and graduate, no matter what. But it wasn't going to be easy. The news was already out. It was all over the internet, and even in the newspapers. Everyone knew my family had gone bankrupt, and I felt like all eyes were on me everywhere I went. It was so stressful, and I knew people were whispering about me. I was nervous to go back to the investment club, aka the rich kid club, because I knew they'd look down on me and my family now. And they did. Now they made me do tasks that only newbies had to do, like collecting data and stuff. One time we had a team meeting, and Mark needed someone to be team leader for the upcoming project.
Who do you guys think will be suitable for this task?
Mark said. To be honest, I didn't care. My head was elsewhere, worrying about my family's situation, but I quickly snapped back as I heard a girl mentioning my name. Anyone but Louise, because obviously, her family's company is dead. We don't want her to push us into bankruptcy too. Everyone laughed, and I was so humiliated. I almost burst into tears in front of them all and had to clench my fists and bite my cheek to stop myself from embarrassing myself even more. Suddenly, Mark slammed his fist down on the table and told them off. I was so grateful to him, but at the same time, embarrassed. I felt so vulnerable all of a sudden. But at least I had Mark. He was the only good thing in my life at that point. Even though he was my shoulder to lean on and we told each other most things, there was one thing I'd been hiding from him. Ever since we got back from the cruise, I'd been receiving hate mail. At first, I thought it was just some kind of prank, but now it felt serious. I was too scared to bring it up, as I didn't want to make the tension at Plutus Heights even worse. Things between Jeremy and Naomi were awful, and Naomi was moving out. So The last thing everyone needed was to hear about my hate mail. It started with a letter that said, "What are you still doing here? You don't belong with the rich kids anymore." Who would say this to me? I didn't want to suspect any of my friends. I mean, why would they say that stuff to me? Plus, the message was made up from cut-off letters in magazines, so I couldn't even base on handwriting or anything to tell who it could be. That continued for 2 or 3 more times. Still, I tried to ignore it. But one night, after an exhausting day at school, I threw myself onto my bed and picked up my favorite book. But as I opened it, a letter fell onto me. More hate mail! This one said, "So you're still here? Becoming a gold digger now, are you? We all know you can't afford to live here, and no one likes you anyway. So get your poor ass out of here. You're ruining our reputation." That was the cherry on top. I already felt stressed at college from all the gossip, and now I didn't even feel safe in my own home. This wasn't a home anymore. I immediately got up and packed my suitcase, crying as I did it. It was simple. I'd just leave. I hoped they'd all be happy now. It was already late, so everyone was in their rooms. I couldn't face seeing them, so I dragged my suitcase as quietly as possible downstairs to leave the house. I didn't even think about where I was going. I just figured I'd get out, find a cab, and go stay in some motel near the campus. As I was walking, I heard a car honking from across the road.
Lou! Hey, Lou! Is that you? What are you doing outside this late?
I turned around and saw it was David, and as soon as he saw me with tears streaming down my face, he leapt out of the car and came running over to me.
Hey, what happened?
He asked me. "I'm leaving," I told him through tears. "That's what everyone wants, right? I'm sorry I bothered you all for so long." He looked confused and said,
What? Who wants that? I don't. Come on, don't be ridiculous. Come back to the house. Let's sort this out.
I refused and told him to leave me alone, but he'd already grabbed my suitcase and then he grabbed my hand and made me get in the car. I was really crying by this point as I told him about the hate mail, and he was so mad. As soon as we got home, he shouted at the top of his voice,
"Emergency meeting now! Everyone wake up!"
Then he ran around the house knocking on everyone's doors, even though I tried to stop him.